I think it's recording. Hey, so this is Bjorn Carlman here with AdventInnovate, and I am doing kind of an experiment. This is our first video interview, and I'm doing it with some good friends of mine, Brian and Jessica Atwell. I'm in the Philippines, they're in Bangkok, which is honestly a city that I love to death, and they are doing some really, really cool stuff. I'm going to let them talk a little bit about what they are running right now, and then we'll kind of rewind a little bit and talk about the journey to get to where they're at. So Brian and Jessica, or either of you, what are you guys, what is your mission right now in Bangkok? What is it you're doing in Bangkok, Thailand?
Currently we operate the F5 Challenge Center, which is it's a fitness-based or health-based center of influence right near the largest university in the country.
Nice.
So we have 5 floors with different aspects of health. We have a plant-based bakery on the first floor,
Cool.
and then we have like a cafe, smoothie bar type thing on the next floor. And then on the upper 2 floors, we have a rock climbing gym and a fitness center.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I just what were you going to say, Jessica?
Sorry, there's a floor for the church too. There's a church and meeting room there as well.
Which floor is that?
4th floor.
Right before the gym.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So just as a little bit of background, I think it was 2-3 years ago when you guys were starting. I've only seen the climbing wall. The rest of it, I think, was kind of in process when I was there. I was like near the beginning. I think you were just opening or doing kind of a soft launch when I was there. That is amazing, guys. To me, it's really, since this site is basically about innovation and innovative Adventists, to me, it's just really cool that you have a climbing wall, the bakery, the smoothie bar, the church, everything in the same center. And it's basically, it's kind of in a low-rise office building. Is that how you describe it, near a university in Bangkok?
Sure. Yeah. It's an old dorm building for the university.
Yes. Okay. I didn't realize it's a dorm building. Oh, it's cool. It's awesome, and it's perfectly positioned.
Yeah.
Like right by the college. So this is amazing what you guys are doing, and it's something that I'm sure would be like a dream for a lot of people, to be able to build up a center with so many facilities, right in the heart of like one of the most interesting cities in the world. Helping, engaging with university students. But this was not at all the case going back to when you first came to Bangkok. So walk us back a little bit. You arrived in, was it 2013 or 2014 in Bangkok? 2014, right? 2014.
April 2 or something, 2014.
That is, yeah. And you arrived, it was kind of a leap of faith in a way, right? You're chosen to do missionary work in Bangkok. Can you tell us a little bit about how you arrived, what the vision was when you got there, how you approached that whole thing?
I guess I will. We
Sure,
were serving as Bible workers in the States, and we attended a camp meeting of sorts called Faith Camp, which is to raise awareness for foreign missions, and the lack of support for them. And anyways, we were asked to do the prayer room, to coordinate the prayer room for them. And so last minute we accepted that, and we had no idea what the state of missions was in for our church. And so we both felt very convicted that we needed to do this. And we were newly married, 5-6 weeks.
What? I didn't know that part. You were 6 weeks married when you came out?
We came back from our honeymoon and went right to this camp meeting.
Okay. That's funny. Okay, all right.
Yeah, we felt really convicted that first night, both of us separately for different reasons. And so we committed that we were going to move forward with it. And so that was 2012, July 2012. And then, with working everything out, raising the funds, then we found out we were pregnant, had to have the baby. Baby had some health issues, but God worked them out and moved forward, and showed up with a 4-month-old in Bangkok in April 2014 with the idea that we would start some kind of training center, a real traditional mindset of ministry, is what we thought we were going to be doing. And that's what we've been doing in the States. And so, but we were very convicted to learn the language and to really Yes, Lord, invest in that.
Yeah, what we came over saying was that we don't really know what we're doing. We're going to come over and learn the language and pray and see how God leads, and kind of go from there. We had a rough idea that we would set up a training center, a training school. But yeah, God had different ideas.
Just real quick so people understand, what do you mean by training school? Like training what?
So we had been working in like for the union where we were based, helping start a school of evangelism. So kind of like an AFCO or a RISE or thing like that. So we kind of thought, well, probably maybe God wants us to do something like that here.
So to like start a school of evangelism in Thailand.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was,
all right. Okay.
That was the only idea we had as far as what we might be doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is around the time that my wife Jamie and I met Brian and Jessica, and
Yes.
so that was kind of where you were at. You were like, Brian, you were going to class like several times a week to learn Thai.
4 hours a day.
What's that?
Yeah, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week was class.
That's intense.
And then studying out, of which,
It was full time. So, and I was not doing quite that full load, but we studied for about 1.5 years, and visa situations were changing, as you remember, and getting a little bit more here. And it was actually Brian's classmate that was an Australian Christian missionary who said, well, you Americans, you have it so easy. You can own 100% of a Thai company. And that really got the wheels turning for us that, that's, center of influence. We thought about that. And my classmate, they were doing a center of influence sort of thing here in Chiang Mai. We went and visited that and saw the relationships that could be built through that. And we saw that as a really awesome working model. And we wanted to take it back to Bangkok. We were studying language up in Chiang Mai at that time and knew we were moving back to work in Bangkok. And so that's
for those of us that don't know, Chiang Mai is in the north. It's like the biggest city in the north of Thailand. And you guys were up there for a bit. Can you tell us a little bit about, because I think some of us know when you refer to centers of influence, like how would you define center of influence in like one sentence or two? Like what's the idea there?
So the goal of what we have is that basically it's a business to anyone who's looking from the outside. It's a business where we offer services. But what it affords is that our staff, who are all Adventists and are trained as Bible workers, they're able to interact with people without their guard up. For instance, when we worked as Bible workers, we went knocking on people's doors. And when you're not expecting somebody, you open the door and you're kind of like, who are you? What are you doing at my house kind of thing. But if you come into my business because you like rock climbing, and so you come to my gym, you have no guard up. There's nothing, you're not like, oh, why are you wanting to talk to me? Why are you coming over and interacting with me? You came to me. And so it starts the relationship without that guard. But then it also, we're providing a service to them. And so it builds that trust and that connection so that, it just makes it a little bit easier to have that initial connection, which is so awkward sometimes when you're trying to share with people.
Exactly. And it's, I don't know. I mean, I love that idea. They say, I mean, I know it's a little bit different in Bangkok, but they say often, like missionaries in like Muslim countries, for example, like a center of influence is a really good idea. Like if you have a business, like you were saying, like that's a lot more acceptable than trying to start something that's like overtly religious from the beginning, So that kind of establishes relationships in a more neutral setting.
And I think rock climbing is even a more unique way because so often with the health message, we just focus on nutrition and forget about so many other aspects of health.
All the other 7 aspects of New Start,
And
exactly.
And rock climbing really provides people a way to face their fears. Like for instance, was afraid of heights and God called him into rock climbing. That was another thing we did not plan. He had never rock climbed before even coming to Thailand, and here we are rock climbing.
And here you are, you own a rock climbing gym. That's amazing.
But
okay. So sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
I was saying, and another aspect that is really needed in missions is the absolute necessity of having to build relationships with people. And when you're an
Mhm.
outsider, that's really not easy. But with rock climbing, when you're climbing up a very high area and you have the fear and the adrenaline going, and the only reason you're not plummeting and crashing to the ground is the guy at the bottom,
Who's holding the rope.
who's holding the rope. Trust is built very quickly. A relationship is established
Yeah,
rapidly. And it's,
absolutely.
like
You
Brian
build
does.
relationships.
Yes, and another aspect of the gym is Brian does guided outdoor climbing trips. And so he
Okay.
takes the only service in central Thailand, in Bangkok, that takes people outside of the concrete jungle into the real jungle. And that's where we've
Cool.
seen a lot of connection happening with customers.
Oh, that's really great. That's really great. And again, I mean, what you guys have built up is pretty incredible. And I think for people that are kind of reading AdventInnovate and now watching on video, a lot of people are probably thinking, well, how could I do something like this? You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of starting from scratch, or I'm back home just kind of dreaming about it. So what I'm interested in is you come to Bangkok, you come to Thailand, you move up north, you're learning the language. You hear that interesting thing about the fact that Americans, and you're both American, are able to own a company or outright. So that kind of gives you the idea. Give me a little bit about like how you went from that kind of traditional mindset of you were going to have a training center to something as innovative as you're going to have like a climbing wall in the middle of this urban jungle. Like how did that happen? How did that brainwave happen?
Yeah, so basically I spent a lot of time studying and researching different counsel that we had been given. And I started coming across statements where Ellen White said that we're like behind the times in the fact that we're supporting foreign missionaries from a salary from the US. And it says that these other denominations are finding ways of self-support, and that should be something that we're focusing on. And so
didn't she call it the much saner way?
Yeah, the more saner method of self-support. And so I said, you know what?
She actually called it that?
Yeah. The quote is amazing.
Oh, wow.
It was like we're so behind, and the quote was like from like 1896 or something like that. So it was like, well, we're pretty far behind now, But yeah, okay, so how can we focus on, because obviously for us also fundraising is kind of awkward. You don't like going around and be like, hey, can you please give us money, to go and do this thing? I was like, that makes sense that we should try and come up with a way to be able to support ourselves with the ministry that we're doing. And so we just kind of started looking into how could we go about doing that. And that's the time where my classmate kind of made an offhand comment. It wasn't about anything. He was just kind of annoyed with his situation. He was doing business as ministry in Phuket, which is in southern Thailand. And he was kind of annoyed with things not working out. And he's like, yeah, it's not like you Americans who can just own 100% of a Thai company. I have to have 60% Thai partnership, And
okay.
And so I started looking into it and seeing what it would take. And it was perfect timing how God worked it out. Because right when we applied and were qualified and got our business visa, that was when all of the religious visas through the way we were getting them all got canceled. And like everyone was scrambling, trying to figure out how are we going to stay in the country? And it was like, we have a 1-year visa now, And so
that's crazy because you were business owners.
Right. So now we have a business visa. So even when we get looked at, we're not being popped on a religious visa anywhere. It's like, no, they're just business.
We're not connected to the church in any way. We're completely separate.
As far as paper goes.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me about that. Like to a lot of Adventists listening to this, especially people that are kind of working for the church in different ways, like for the official Adventist church, the denomination, whatever. What you're doing sounds really scary because you know what I mean? Like you're kind of missing the safety net of, like benefits and like a steady paycheck and all of those things that like official denominational employees get. And I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, so I get it. But how do you guys like explain to our audience a little bit? Like, how do you deal with that? Like in your heads? I mean, like how do you deal with the fear aspect? I guess, or you're not afraid, or is it not scary?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh wait, the screen kind of flipped. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Sorry,
there we go. Perfect. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. Do you want to? I don't really have much fear, and maybe I don't have a whole lot of sense. I don't know, but I when I came to know God, I was homeless. You know, I was a homeless drug addict, alcoholic, living in a car, and so
Okay.
you know, for me, I watched how God can provide and how He could take care of things, be able to help me get back out of that, pay off all these debts that I had, be able to turn things around through trust and obedience. And so I've never really thought much about the financial side of things. I mean, we sold everything and moved over here, and I thought, wow, we have like $32,000, that we're gonna get.
I remember when you guys told me you had $30,000, and I was like, good for them. I hope it lasts.
Yeah, no, it didn't. It lasted barely over a year. And then it was like, what are we gonna do? And we were and everyone told us, it's almost Christmas. What you do is you make a video, tell everyone what you need, and you send it out. All the churches in America will raise money and send you money. And so we prayed about doing it. And then we were reading about William Miller and not William Miller, George Mueller. And we said, you know what? Let's just take it to God, and let's not tell anyone that we're out of money. Like literally next month we can't pay rent. Let's just pray and just tell God. And so we did.
And we said, God, we know you'll provide, to the point of where we'll give 50% of what you provide.
Yeah. And so we got our statement, and we had nobody donating except for my grandma at the time. We had no donors. It was like my grandma would send us.
Nice to have your grandma donating.
Yeah.
$50 a month.
And so all of a sudden, statement that in the following month, and we gotten $3,000. And so we tied half of it, and then we had enough exactly to get us through the month.
We kept doing that,
and that continued for the next a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
And so God showed us that He's faithful. If we just do what He's asking us to do, He's going to provide it. And so we haven't really worried much about. I mean, that's not true. There's definitely been times where I'm like looking and I'm like, okay, we have like $8,000 in bills that are due in a couple of days, and we only have like $400. Like, what are we going to do? And so I do get a little bit. But God has provided, for the last 6 years.
I would definitely say it's been a process. At the beginning, it was a bit more fearful, but God asked for smaller steps at the beginning. And I remember one of our big steps was signing up for the business, and we're like, how could we do this? Then we were told we had to go back to the US and get the visas and this and that and work. And I said, we're going to sign up for the business and pay the lawyer and all these things. And I said, if God wants us to do this, we have to do it. And we showed up in America with $15 to our name.
That's amazing.
I mean,
so you land in the US with $15?
We had paid everything. We had paid everything in here. We had paid all of our bills for the time we were going to be gone. We got our visa. We landed in America, and it was like, we looked at the account statement. I think it was like $13 and some odd change. It was like,
wow.
And sometimes that's the happiest moments. Those are the exciting times. And so, why do you keep going? Stuff like that. Like, how do you end up signing a lease where you're going to have to pay like $1,200 a month? God's provided to do it again. If you are 100%, knowing this is what He wants you to do, like, step out. And even if it's scary, it's like you're doing it for God. Like, He'll back it up. Not on presumption, but like when you are like humble and you're like, I'm doing this for you, and it seems crazy, but like, okay. And I know we've signed contracts where it's like, we are going to owe $15,000. We got to sign it
in a week, and we don't have any money. But if we don't sign it, then we can't do it, and God comes through with it.
It's honestly to a point now when we have these big bills. Like I've told Brian, I'm like, it's kind of exciting. Like, how's God going to like show up with this amount of money? Like, how's it going to happen? Like, where's it going to come from? Because it's shown up in so many random places before.
So to give balance, she's making it sound like this is the common thing. We don't often sign contracts without money.
No.
We're not like super irresponsible.
I'm like, hey,
But there have been those experiences.
That's so inspiring. I mean, what I'm taking away from you guys is like, God has really built your faith up in a big way. I mean, it was a leap of faith to start with, and He's kind of built it up through all these experiences. And I mean, that's a blessing to hear about that. I want to dig down a little bit for people that, again, you guys are super innovative. This is kind of just kind of a go with God approach to missions and innovation in the Adventist space. So the way you guys fundraise, if you want to call it that, so you have a newsletter, just for people that want to do a similar thing. You have a newsletter, you have like a donation link on some websites, and you've kind of built up a network over the years through the newsletter and other things, right? That's kind of how you get funded, through donors that want to support what you're doing.
Yeah, and we also have there's a ministry called Jesus for Asia that does some fundraising for us. They produce videos and they have a program on 3ABN, and so they share information there as well.
Okay, and you guys have a link on Jesus for Asia, or like some kind of click to help you guys on there? Okay.
JesusForAsia.org/invest, and then you find the Bangkok outreach, @will page.
What I'll ask is, after this, like, just I'll put it in the show notes, just the link, so if people want to like support you through that, they can click through on the link from the website. But yeah, so guys, just for the audience out there, so that is a great way to do that. Like, I think what I've learned from Jessica and Brian is the importance of networking, of having a newsletter. You guys have been pretty consistent with a newsletter for years. I think that's helped for sure.
Up until this year, actually. I did a monthly newsletter every month for the last 6 years. And then this last year, things got really busy, and then COVID hit, and we've kind of fallen off a little bit.
We'll just use the COVID excuse.
Well, yeah, we can all use the COVID excuse, but the fact is that a newsletter really helps. I mean, like, kind of keeping your friends and loved ones and kind of people that are interested in the loop that way is helpful. And then also, if you can link up, Jesus for Asia is really helpful in Asia, obviously, but there are similar organizations for different parts of the world. Trying to get them to feature your ministry with a link, it can be helpful as well in terms of funding what you do. I promise not to make this too long an interview. I want to get in just a couple more sort of intermediate things. So we talked about the fact that you found out about the opportunity for Americans. We've talked a little bit about funding. So let's say, okay, you found out that you could do this as Americans. You decided to do something innovative, and how did you get the climbing wall idea, and what was the process to get the facility that you currently have?
So basically we had like the traditional Adventist idea of, you just start a vegetarian restaurant, like that's how you do city living.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
But as we kind of talked with more people and we were praying about it, and like Jessica mentioned, I don't know if you're familiar with F5 Challenge, but it's a ministry started in Washington State by a personal friend of mine, actually. And I told him what we were doing, and he said, well, have you heard what we're doing? And so he shared with us that. And so they're basically using outdoor adventure activities to connect young people with the church. So, so it was okay. So this is like a fitness-based thing. So then we thought, well, what if we try to do something similar to that? Basically, we had a lot of ideas, and we kept sharing them in the newsletter every month. It was like, actually, I think we're going to do this. Actually, I think we're going to do this. And I started feeling super unstable. And I was like, man, people are going to stop supporting us because we sound really like, unbalanced.
Because you had a different idea every month?
Yeah, well, because exactly. And so I was searching. I was basically riding my motorcycle up and down the streets in the area that we thought we were going to every day for like 6 hours, looking for signs that said for rent. Like, that's how you find places here. And one day I came across this building, and the sign, I misread it in Thai. And so I called the guy. Anyways, he came and met with me, and I thought it was like a single shop front. And we went in, and it was this huge building, 15,000 square feet.
I can attest to that. It is huge. I mean, it's like, it takes time to go places in this building. It's big. Yeah.
And so I was like, oh man, like, this is way too big and way too expensive. Like, there's no way we're going to be able to afford it. And so we got over to the top floor, and he's showing it to me. And as we start walking down, all of a sudden in my mind, I'm like envisioning, on this floor, we can have this. And on this floor, we can have this. And it was like all those ideas, those unstable ideas I thought I was having, changing my mind all the time. God was like, no, you can do all of those things right here in this place. And you can reach all these different, niches of people. And so, basically, that was, that was kind of how that came about. And so we, but the climbing wall, actually, that was the last thing. We said, we're going to do that last. When we were doing all the renovations, we basically started running out of money. And And we said, well, leave that top floor because that was going to be super expensive. And we were just going to focus on the restaurant because, you know, that's the traditional thing to do. And by God's grace, some guy that I had never heard of and never met called me or sent me an email. And he said, you know, hey, I'm a lawyer in Southern California. We heard about your project, and I talked to God and told him that I was going to give half of my earnings from this current case that I'm working on. And so I just want you to know that I'm going to be sending you $45,000, but it's not going to come. It's not going to come for 2 weeks, 2 months. And we had a group of people who were scheduled
for the climbing walls
for the
He was sending it for that.
And so there was a group of people, of 10 people from Canada, who had devoted. They said they would come out and help us build the climbing wall free. You know, they would just come on their own. But we had to have the money to buy the supplies. And I was like, well, we don't have the supplies. And they said, well, in faith, we bought tickets. And then I called them and I said, well, in faith, God just provided the money. And so the gym ended up being the first thing to open. It was the only thing we had money for to get completely finished.
Well, yeah, I remember that because I think I came like right after those guys set that up.
Yeah, you came to the grand opening, I think.
Yeah, I was like,
you came to help the night before until like midnight.
Yeah, I was like mopping the top floor at 2 a.m. or something.
Yeah, we were all working till 4 a.m. We went to sleep for like an hour and a half and then had to get up and get ready for all the people to start coming.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Another way God confirmed that we chose that location was we were still in Chiang Mai. Brian is researching like crazy on the computer, like, can Americans actually own a company? And I'm putting our little boy to sleep. And like 2 nights in a row, I'm like laying there dreaming, you know, kind of half awake. And I just kept seeing like fish on the walls, like this sea scene, you know, fish on the walls. Like that's what we were going to decorate our place like, which is like not my style. I'm not into like the beach thing, but whatever. So I came out finally the second night. I came out and tell Brian, hey, when we get this place, I think God wants us to decorate it like a beach and like fish, right? And he just looked at me like, you are so far in the future. Like, we don't even know if this is possible. And you're like decorating this place. And there was a specific documentary that we watched before coming to Thailand that really encouraged us to go to Bangkok called I Want This City. And it's a 13-part web series. And so we were rewatching that.
Oh, who does that? Is that Doug? What's his name?
Doug Venn.
Yeah.
Doug Venn. Yeah.
And so we were rewatching that to kind of, you know, reignite the passion to go back to Bangkok. And Brian calls me out one night, and there was one specific episode, and it was we had already decided that we were going to Rom Kam Hang, that we were gonna start some kind of smoothie
Rom
shop.
Kam Hang is a neighborhood in Bangkok, for those of you that don't know. Yeah.
That's the university actually where Brian was talking about.
Yeah, it's a university area. Yeah.
And so we'd already decided we were going back there. And so on this film, Doug is talking about how he's going to a church plant in the Rom Kam Hang area, and, you know, he's going to be doing whatever and meeting with them. And their dream is to have some kind of smoothie shop there to reach out to the kids in the community. But, you know, they just don't have the money to do it yet. So let's go. And they get in the car and they drive to the meeting. And then you wouldn't believe it, in the meeting, in their little building that they were meeting in the background, it looks like a kindergartner has taken a paintbrush and drawn green seaweed, and there's fish stickers on the wall.
What?
So it was the same location, the same idea, and the fish on the wall, right? It was just like total confirmation to like move forward.
I was about to say, that must have been confirmation for you.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, we ended up being the center of influence because a passion of ours wasn't necessarily rock climbing, but it was fitness and health and helping people. And so we ended up doing that and wanting to help the students. So it just connected well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. As we're wrapping up here, just something you said there kind of interested me. You guys are both like into physical fitness, like, and there's an element here of kind of scratching your own itch in ministry, as in like you're doing something in ministry that you're both into and kind of interested in anyway. Like, what would you say to people there? Like, is there, like God can obviously use your interests and your passions, right? Like you don't have to like be someone you're not.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I mean, how would you encourage people? Because, for example, like I've shared on this blog that I mean, the way I started off straight out of school was like I got into a job, and it was like, you know, it was like well paid and everything, but it didn't really ignite my passion. I wasn't interested. I was unhappy, like straight up unhappy. And so our like leap of faith was basically to try to do something that I'd wanted to do, which was blogging. So it's totally different from a climbing wall, but it was like scratching my own itch, in my own sort of ministry. And I don't know, to me, it's like, it's created something that's like very, very interesting, and it's something I can do every day and feel good about and really enjoy, rather than something that I'm like dragging myself to. So I don't know, I kind of feel the same in you guys. You're doing something that it's hard work, and it requires a lot of faith, but it's something that you're passionate about. Is that too much of a stretch?
No, and that, I mean, that's definitely, I mean, yeah, like you mentioned in your first, experience, it's like, there's a lot of people I think that do that, where it's like, well, this is just what I'm supposed to do, so I'm just going to do this. And that's the struggle that we've always had, is like, well, you're supposed to be self-denying. And so God wants you, if there's two choices and one of them is one you want to do and one is one that you don't want to do, it's like, God probably wants you to do the one you don't want to do, because you're supposed to deny self. And, but it's like, that's not who God is. God wants us to enjoy life. God, I mean, not that we're not supposed to deny self, but, to have this idea that, like, we just have to do what's right, and it shouldn't, we shouldn't enjoy it. I think that's a false picture of God. I think he wants us to enjoy what we do, so that we have that interest, like you mentioned, that passion, that drive to keep doing it when things are hard, when things, when it sucks, to put it in a,
totally. Yeah.
There's plenty of days where it's just like, man, I don't want to go and do this, but then I start doing it. It's like, oh yeah, this is why I do this, because this is, I get somebody that comes in and I do this training, and it's just like, oh yeah, like this is super fun, like, and definitely. Yeah, it just like changes the whole mood. So
one of my favorite quotes is amazing. To stand in your God-given personality, be no man's shadow. And
I love that.
I think really, it's almost like we treat ourselves like we're sinful for having wants, desires, passions, talents, things, and we do not give God the glory for our God-given personality and our likes and dislikes and wants and desires. Like, he put those in your heart, and he wants to use you, and you aren't supposed to stand in someone else's shadow and just be, a follower. Like, but be creative. Let God use your God-given gifts for his glory. And
exactly.
It's okay to be joyful. And you don't,
and like really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I definitely see that loud and clear with you guys, and it's just super inspiring. And I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know you got like 3 little kids, and it's Bangkok, and it's getting later and later at night. So we're gonna wrap this up. But any last thoughts? Obviously, you can hit me up, and I can add things in the show notes. But anything else you would add, to kind of encourage people that are thinking about, trying to do something innovative for God, but maybe they're still formulating it?
I would say the biggest thing is to spend time in prayer, and just knowing that God's directing you, because like when we started this, all along, when we had the building, everyone, that we would bring there, they'd be like, oh, I tell them what we're going to do. They're like, oh, that's not going to be able to happen. You can't do that. It's going to cost so much money. It's going to take this, it's going to take that. All along the way, basically, most people were discouraging. There was very few who were not discouraging. And those people usually just said nothing. And it wasn't until afterwards, and they were like, when you brought me here and you told me about that, I was like, there's no way. Like, what are you even talking about? I don't even see it. And they're like, but when we walk through now, it's like, it's exactly how you described it. It's almost like you could see it in your head, but I couldn't see it when you tried to describe it, And so the point is, don't let other people discourage you. If you know that God is leading you, then move forward in faith and just keep going, even amid the discouragement and the distraction. Because if God has a plan and that he's directing you, he's going to make it work out. And that's going to be where he's able to be glorified. If you just follow somebody's opinion and they say, oh, this is how you should do things, and you just follow all of that, yeah, there might be some fruit, but I mean, what could happen if you actually stepped out and did, how God led? It's not always going to look traditional. When you look at what Jesus did, most of what he did was not traditional. The people were not like super, I'm not saying we shouldn't do the traditional ministry, but
if God's calling you to take a risk, don't be scared.
Yeah.
Right.
Even if you fail, you're going to learn. Don't be scared.
Yeah, well, yeah, you guys are definitely not risk averse. I put it that way. I mean, you've really gone for it, and you're an inspiration to Jamie and I, and to a lot of people. And so, thank you so much, guys, for what you do. You know, it's inspiring. I can't wait to visit the center once Thailand starts letting people in again, which will probably be a while, but whatever. It's just really cool. And in the meantime, yeah, God bless you, and thank you so much for taking the time here. Again, we'll include links to supporting Brian and Jessica and their family and their ministry in the show notes. And I'm sure, you know, we can, in the comment section, whether on Facebook or on the site, yeah, you can hit us up with questions if there are follow-up questions that I didn't cover here that you would love to hear about from Brian and Jessica. But thanks a lot, guys, and sleep well now. You definitely deserve a good night's sleep. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bjorn.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.